Alright, so time to start our SQL coding journey. And as I have told you in our previous session that we are going to follow W3 schools in order to learn SQL because this is very clean and you will be able to learn a lot of things about SQL. And finally, when the course ends, we will try to do a project which will get you up and running and it will also help you crack any interviews about SQL that you are in, right? So let's get started. So first of all, we have the intro of SQL, which we have already done. So home is not required. Then we have something called SQL syntax. Right now, if we talk about SQL syntax, what are the syntaxes that we have? So first we have a table, and on this table, what we are doing is we are running some SQL statements. And here, as you can see, the example is select all from the customers, right? So what it says is most of the actions you need to perform on a database are done using SQL statements. And the following SQL statements selects all the record from the customer table. So here what we are talking about is we are talking about a SQL statement. Okay. Now we are going to learn how we can also write this in the workbench. Okay. So when you open the workbench, it will look something like this, and if you want to check whether this workbench is connected to any server or not, you can just go here and you can check, okay, the server status is running. Okay, and you can just cross it, and as you can see here on this tab, it is saying query 1. That means here only we can do all our queries. Okay, so first of all, here on the left hand side, you don't need to look at anything. I will straight go to the schemas. Okay, now if you go to the schemas, there will already be a database created for you that is called sys. Okay, so since the sys is already created, so we are not going to use it because this is something that is by default. What we are going to do is we are going to create our own database. Okay, now and how we can create our own database, so let's see. This is a quick query. What we can do is just create database, and I will try to name it practice. So if I do it, okay, and if I try to run it, so this is the run button that you can use. So if I try to run it, you see in here you will see the action output, that is create database practice, one row affected, and here as you can see this has successfully run because it has a green tick here. Okay, so now here we have our practice database created, and this is not showing up because we need to refresh it. So this is the small refresh button. So if you just hit it, and now you will see that the practice is already created. Now what we are going to do is, since we already have the data in CSV format, what we are going to do is we are going to fetch that exact data. Okay, so if I right click on this, and there will be one option called table data import wizard, and if I do this, so you need to provide the path here. So I've already provided it. What you need to do is if you go to the browse, and then you just need to follow the path and you need to select the data. If you do that, this path will be automatically selected, and then you just need to do next, and here you don't need to do anything, next, and here also you do next, and it is done. As you can see, all these tasks are performed for you. Okay, now I will do next and then finish. Okay, so since we have already got the data in here, what I need to do is I just need to do a refresh here again, and as you can see now under practice database, so what database is, we have already discussed this. So database contains data, right, in a table format or whatever format that is. So in here we are storing the data in the practice database. So if I come under the practice, there you will see the table. So if you just click on it, and here you can see the customer data. So what we are doing here is we are storing the data in a particular database. So we are not storing this data in the sys database. Okay, and you can drop it if you want. So you can just try to drop the schema. Okay, so what we are doing is we are just taking the customer data in our practice database. Okay, now if I try to go to the W3 schools here, what we will have to do is we will have to run this command, right? So we will have to run this statement, that is a select statement. Okay, so to do that, what we are going to do is, so we have already created the database. So here you need to put a semicolon here. Okay, now if you don't put the semicolon and if you try to write the select query, so select, I will do all from customer data. If you try to do it, let me just try customer data, you see it is showing an error, right? It is showing an cross. So you cannot write it like this. In order to write multi-line SQL queries, what you'll have to do is you'll have to put semicolon. Okay, now here you don't need it because after that we don't have any query as of now. Okay, so the first query is done, and now I will run the second query. Okay, so we don't need to run this, so I will just select this one and I will try to run this. So you can run it from here, and if I run it, you see it is giving an error. Now why is this giving error? Because first of all, right now what we are doing is we are just writing an SQL query that is called select all from customer data, but we are not mentioning from which database, right? Because there are two databases. One is a practice and one is a sys. So what we will need to do is we will try to also specify that we will have to get this customer data from the practice database, because in the sys database we don't have the customer data, right? So in order to do that, what we do is we try to use a SQL query. Okay, and that is nothing but the use practice. That's it. So what we are going to do is we are going to use this. Since after this query we have another query, what we will need to do is we'll need to hit the semicolon. Okay, and now I will try to run the both of them. Okay, so let's try to run the first one first. So I will try to select this one and run this one. So see what happens if I do that. It is running one query called use practice. Okay, now if you look here, now the practice is bolded. Now previously it was like this, right? It was like the sys. Now the practice is bolded. That means whatever query you perform now, it will be performed under this database. Okay, now if I try to run this one, see what happens. You see it successfully ran, right? And you have this box open and showing all the data, whatever the data that you had in this, it is showing up, right? So this is about the SQL select statement. Now we will try to move on to the second topic. Let's see what that is. So select is the same thing. So it is just selecting column and from the table name. Okay, also what you can do is if you, so this asterisk means all, right? So what we are doing is we are selecting all from the data, so all the columns, all the rows from the data. But if I want to select some particular columns from the data, what I'm going to do is I will put a semicolon there, and now I will do select. So there is another thing. If you write the select like this, or the select like this, or the select like this, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so it's all the same. Okay, you can write anything that you want. Okay, so I will try to write select, and then what I want is I want to select the customer ID. Let's say I want to select the customer ID. I need to, now this here I need to provide the proper column names. Okay, so I will choose customer ID, and then I will try to choose the customer name. So I will do customer name from customer data. Okay, so if I do this, and then if I try to run this one, let's see what happens. You see it has already run, and now it is not selecting all the columns, it is only selecting the customer ID and the customer name. Okay, so this is how you can write the select statement. Okay, so now if I go to the select distinct, let's see what happens. So in this select distinct column 1 column 2 from table name. Okay, now if I try to go down, it is doing distinct now, so distinct country from the customers. Okay, so in order to do that, let's first see what our data contains. So I will try to again run this one. So if I run this one, how many countries do we have? We have Germany, Mexico, UK and Sweden. Okay, but if you see here, Mexico is coming twice, right? Now if I want to see how many distinct, how many unique countries are there, so the unique countries are Germany, Mexico should come only once, UK and Sweden. Okay, so this is what it is doing. So let's try to do it. Select, I will write distinct. Distinct means unique, so I will just do distinct country from customer data. So if I do it, and if I try to run this one, you see it is showing only the distinct one. So Mexico is coming only once, not twice. Okay, so it is actually showing you how many distinct, not how many, what are the distinct countries that you have. Okay, now let's try to move on. So we have the where clause. So in the where clause, let's see what where does. So the where clause is used to filter records. That means if I go here, if I come here, let me try to remove this one. So I will just try to remove this one, or make it a little bit smaller. Make this one also a little bit smaller. What you can also do is you can use this buttons. Okay, so here if you see, if I hit this, You see the left part is gone. Okay, I want it back, but I don't want this one, so I will just move it. Okay, and I will keep it like this. Okay, now what we are going to do is we are going to run our where clause. Okay, so so in order to run it, I will run this one again in order to see the whole data. So we have this. Now what I want is I want to select all the data where the country is Germany. Okay, so what I'm going to do is select all from customer data. Now I will write where the country is equal to, I will say it should be Germany. Okay, and I will, so Germany, whenever you write a text, okay, it should come under inverted comma. Okay, now I will try to run this one and let's see what happens. So you see, wherever the country is Germany, only one row is selected. Okay, now if I try to make it Mexico, let's see what happens. If I try to make it Mexico, I think I'm just making the name correct. Okay, I'm really bad with the spelling, so let's try to see what the Mexico is. Mexico. Okay, it should be me. Now if I try to run this one, let's see. So you see, the two rows that had the country Mexico are selected. So this is how we can run the where clause as well. Okay, so where is a clause, select is a statement. Okay, and you don't really need to learn all these technical terms, but this is how we can use the filters. So where is used to filter the records. That's it. Now moving on to and, or, and not. So these are the operators that we have in SQL. So what it does is, if I want to select Mexico and Germany, what I'm going to do is, so what it should have is the country either should be Mexico or should be Germany, let's say. So what I'm going to do is I will just write or, and then I will write again country equal to Germany, right? And now I will try to run this one. Let's see what happens. If I run this, you see, so how the OR is working, OR is selecting either Mexico or Germany. That means Mexico and Germany both are selected over here. Okay. So this is how you can use the OR as well. Okay. Now, if I want to say that, let me try to run this full thing. And then if I want to say that the country should be Germany, and I mean, since this data is really small, so what I can say is, okay, the country should be Mexico and the postal code should be 5023. Okay, so we have two conditions now. The country should be Mexico and the postal code should be 5023. That means one row should be selected, this row. So let's try to do that. So first I'm saying country should be equal to Mexico, and this time I will use and because I want both of these conditions to be true. Okay, now here what I'm going to do is I will write the postal code. So let me try to write the postal code 50, and then I will try to run this one. It should select only this row, and you see it is selecting only that row where the country is Mexico and the postal code is 5023. Now, as you can see, they have provided a bigger database here. So demo database, that is the same data, but with many different rows. So now what we are going to do is we are going to copy this data. Okay. So let me just try to copy this data. You can also do it. I will copy this data, put it in Excel, and then I will paste it. Sorry, I will save it as our CSV format, right? Because without CSV, SQL cannot pull the data. Okay, so I will select the whole data here, and then I will try to go to this. Then I will to paste it, and if I look at it, see everything looks fine. So I will just save it, and this is a customer data, so I will name it customer data, but I will name it as full. Okay, because this is a full data. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to save it as our CSV because this is a CSV format, and I will save it. Okay, so if I save it as CSV, now if I go to our SQL, so let's go to the SQL, and in here the exact same process I will follow in order to get that data as well. Okay, so I will move here and then I will go to data import wizard, and in here I will do browse because I need to select this data now. So it is a full, and then I will do next. Let's see what happens. Next, 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 and finish. So you see 91 records are imported over here. Okay, now I will just do finish, and then I will try to, since customer data full is not appearing, I just need to refresh it. So if I refresh it, you see the customer data full is there. Okay, now let's try to go in here. So we are missing one clause here, that is actually we are missing one operator, that is a not operator. Okay, so I will try to use the not operator. Now what I can say is the country should not be Mexico. So if I do that, if I do country should not be Mexico, that means all the other countries should be selected, right? So let's try to go over here. So we have already used or, we have already used and this time we are going to use the not, right? So let's see how they are writing it. They are writing or, that is good. Not, right? So what it is doing is where country is not Germany. Okay, so let's try to copy this and let's try to paste it in our code. So select all from customers where country is not Germany. Okay, now this is not customers for us, it should be the customer data full, right? So now if I try to run this one, and you see wherever the country is not Germany, it is showing up. So here you won't find anything that is that has the country Germany. Okay, and if I try to remove, instead of Germany, if I try to remove the Mexico, let me try to do that as well. So I will do Mexico, and then if I run it again, you see Germany is coming but the Mexico is not coming. All right, so since we have already removed the Mexico from our data, now what we are going to also try is we will try to remove the Mexico. That means the country should not be Mexico, as well as the country should not be Germany as well. Okay, that means the country should not be Mexico and it should also not be Germany. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to select all from customer data full, where not country is this. Here I will have to add another AND operator, and then I will say not country is equal to Germany. Let's see what this does. So I will just do this and then I will try to run this one. Okay, so if I run this, you see both the Germany and the Mexico are gone now from the data. Okay, so this is how you can combine as well. You can combine not with or, not with and, like that. Okay, so that's it for this video. We will see you in the next lecture.